Hello. Wait a minute, I'm on a tilt. Hello. It's time for another video.
Everybody gets sad, but you just got to keep on smiling. And everybody gets mad, but you just got to pick up yourself.
Last Friday, Ethan Klein had Bobby Lee and Kalila on HC Podcast. They've been on before. It's been nice. Let's see if I can focus on my face again. My beautiful face. Can you see me? The controversy I want to talk about today has to do with something that was brought up on the podcast on Friday when Bobby Lee went on. They brought up some things between Bobby, Kalila, and what's his name? Brendan Schaub. There's some stuff going on with between. Basically, I think Kalila on a podcast at some point brought up that Brendan Schaub had flirted with her while she and Bobby were dating. I'm not sure if I got that right, so sorry if I got that wrong. And they had, anyways, they had talked about it together. They made up, but then Brendan went on his podcast, or somebody's podcast, and then started talking about it, even though him and Kalila had agreed to not talk about it. That's kind of, I don't know, like again, if you really are interested, look into it, because I am not an authority. But basically, they go, Brendan talks about it on the podcast. Kalila says, oh, that's a breach of our agreement, so I'm going to talk about it on the HC podcast. And so, this is where I'm getting at, is they did talk about it on the HC podcast, and Bobby Lee seemed very uncomfortable with the situation. When I was watching it, I thought so. I thought this guy, he's clearly not comfortable talking about this. Now, but I don't think that's actually Ethan's fault. I think there could have been better communications on many fronts. So basically, what I'm seeing people criticizing Ethan for, and granted, this is probably just a vocal minority. I think most people know that Ethan didn't mean any wrong. But people have been criticizing Ethan for pushing Bobby Lee into talking about stuff that he doesn't want to. And now, I don't think that's completely fair, though I do understand where the criticism's coming from. But people are saying that Ethan brought up something that wasn't fair to talk about, that wasn't on the table, and that he pushed it. Now, in my opinion, that is mostly false. Now, if you look at the podcast, and I'll show a clip, if you watch it, Ethan makes a comment about Brendan Schaub, and he's like, oh, we can't talk about that. But then Kalila says, yes, I want to talk about that. And Bobby Lee is like, no, it's not. But she's like, hey, look, this is about me. I want to talk about it. And that's fine.
Smart.
Yes, that's smart. If I said I'm a beast.
You can't say that.
You can't say it. No, there are comics that do
It's
that.
also
I'm a beast.
to me, it's the
name
immediate
someone.
red flag. Like if somebody is like, oh yeah, I'm the best, or speaks like highly of themselves, I'm like, red flag.
Not going. Not funny.
Something's wrong here.
Yeah. There are comics that do that. You want to name?
Yeah, name someone. Brendan Schwab. I'm a beast. Wait, we can't talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
If you...
No,
I would love to.
Talk about what?
Why don't you want to talk about Brendan Schwab? But you're down.
No. So, Brendan Schaub?
Okay.
You gently do it, but this is on you. This is on you.
Okay, so Brendan,
Here's what I
This
say.
is on you, and that's it.
he's a comedian
Yeah.
that you have a podcast with two other very funny ladies called Trash Tuesday.
Right, with Esther Pavitsky and Annie Leonard.
Annie.
Yeah.
Great show.
Thank you.
Love all three of you guys.
My heart's beating because I want to be delicate about this.
100%.
Okay, yes.
You tread lightly.
I will tread lightly.
So you guys were doing a show, and you said that someone you guys knew
Right.
was trying to pick.
Hold on,
You don't
let
wanna
Ethan
even say?
finish. This is just...
Well, just correct me where I'm wrong.
We don't
Yeah.
need to stress you guys out.
It's going to distress him because... Okay, go ahead, Ethan.
You okay, Bobby?
Yeah.
So you guys said
Yeah.
this guy Brendan Schwab. You alluded to it. You said his initials was BS. Everybody now knows it's him, right?
Well, the first time that we had talked, it was a story about someone who had hit on me 7 years ago. It was a story about but we never said his name during the first show.
You guys were together 7 years ago?
Yes, we've been together 9.
Okay, Playboy. Pound it for that. Fucking tricolored cock, but man.
When is your 10-year anniversary?
Next year.
Okay. 'Cause ours is coming up. I was like, maybe
In
we're
June. 10 years.
in
married.
October.
Oh, October. Wrong month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Anyway.
Tread lightly.
With no intention other than to just tell a story about
Funny
something
story.
that happened.
Interesting.
Just to get a good laugh, something that I thought might
So
be
7 years
relatable.
ago, he tried to pick you up, this comedian.
I told the
comedian.
story on Trash Tuesday, which is like,
He tried to, and the story was interesting. He brought you to the car and tried to get a blowy or something?
No, that's not me. That
was one of the other girls.
Annie, yeah, and
Because that's such an interesting way to pick up a girl, I think. To be like, yo, you want to come to my car and suck my cock?
by the way, I should preface this by saying I had a phone call with him. All is squared away and fine.
Okay.
But he did promise. We promised that this would never be brought up again. But then he went on Flagrant 2 and talked about it. So I was like, all right, deal's off. I'm going to talk about it on H.
Deals off.
Yeah. So, but I'll be delicate about it because I do think that, I don't want to be an asshole to anybody. Yeah.
That is completely fine. Although I think it does have to do with Bobby, and obviously he was uncomfortable with the situation. I think that maybe there could have been more communication between the two of them. Not saying that Ethan couldn't have recognized the situation and tried to give Bobby an out. And maybe, I feel like maybe he did, but I don't know that. What I'm saying is, Kalila and Bobby Lee, yeah, whatever. It just looks like she brought something up that she may have blindsided Bobby, but I don't think that was Ethan's fault. Now, they can work on their own shit, doesn't matter, whatever. But I guess where this is coming from is today I saw a clip on the H3 Productions subreddit of Bobby Lee and Kalila. I think they had Brendan Chubb on their podcast. It may not have been him, but I think it was. Where they're talking about the whole thing, and Bobby is like, man, Ethan, that was such an uncomfortable situation for me. Ethan was talking about the stuff that I never want to talk about ever.
So when I showed up to HE3 podcast, this wasn't even in our world. It wasn't in our view, our mind. You know what I mean?
And I don't know him, and I have no ill will towards
Right,
him.
right.
I don't know him, but from my understanding from talking to mutual friends of ours, that's what he does, right?
Yeah, but
He
we had
he
done the
deals with that
podcast.
drama
But we
stuff?
had done that podcast many times before. He's done ours, him and his wife, Hila, and
They're lovely.
They're lovely, and
Yeah, I don't know.
as
again, I
people,
have
they're
no-
lovely.
I don't know them.
And it wasn't in our, and even on the drive back from there, we were in a state of shock because, I'm not one to, air my dirty laundry on air. Okay. And it was a private matter. And once he brought it up, there was just no way to get out of it. I tried, I was a thinking machine. It was just like spinning, right?
In honesty, I didn't try that hard.
Yeah. I know
I
she
was
did.
willing to
And-
talk.
and-
And I'll tell you why.
And I believe you guys. And the same thing with Schultz when he goes, "Hey, I want to bring up the hate." I didn't know he's going to bring up this so particular issue with us.
Yeah.
And I said nothing but complimentary things. I wanted to move on, which we did.
Okay, we'll get to that
so,
too.
so just one last thing is that so we said things that I was gonna die to the grave with. My relationship with H3 is my own private matter. You know what I mean?
I didn't see it, but I heard completely that you guys were caught off guard.
And also, I'm just responding to the things that I've read online, saying that why did you do it in the first place? And you have to understand that I had done it before, and it was never like that. They had done ours, and
I'd like to defend Ethan and Ela
You can.
here and say
I love
that,
them.
But
they
who's
asked,
attacking them?
They asked the question, and I don't know about you. Maybe that's how you felt. I don't want to invalidate your feelings on it, but I was okay to talk about it.
I know
and I'll
you
get
were.
to why I was okay to talk
Okay.
about it. All right. Are we sure we have 10 minutes of undivided attention?
All right,
Yeah.
timeline start.
I think that's fair. Like you didn't expect to be talking about this, and it came up. But I don't think that's honestly. I don't think that's Ethan's fault. Like I said, Kyla was more than willing to talk about it. I don't think she really pushed Bobby into talking about it. I think it is sort of like her shit, and she wanted to talk about it. I get why Bobby wouldn't want to talk about it because he's being harassed by other comedians and would rather not open that can of worms, so to speak, again. And that's like, I get that totally. I totally get that. But I guess where my issue with that is that Bobby, he presented information that was brand new and that nobody would have known. And so he seemed more than willing to talk about it. He was giving up information that, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like this whole situation is reminiscent of when Ethan, if you remember, spoke to John Tron on one of his podcasts and brought up a controversy John Tron was in. And if you watched the podcast at the time, you may have thought that Ethan was pushing him to talk about something he didn't want to. It was uncomfortable. I think a lot of people are getting that kind of vibe from this podcast. Or they claim to be anyways. Gunter, please. I'm trying to record a video. And then, but what that ultimately came out was that he and John Tron had talked about it before they recorded that episode, and John Tron, I think, became uncomfortable during the recording of that episode. Now, why that's relevant is I think it's different. I think that situation Ethan has come a long way from. I don't think that Ethan, he said it on his podcast today. He didn't even, that wasn't even on his radar. Like, he was vaguely aware of the situation while researching, but he didn't want to, he didn't bring it up.
So I want to say, I don't think Bobby's trying to say anything, but I don't know. I get accused of a lot of stuff, okay, especially with the interview like that. And I've definitely been guilty of pushing people too hard to talk about things that they're uncomfortable with in the past, for sure. But I've worked a lot on my, interviewing skills and listening and being more sensitive to making the guests comfortable and talking about things they want. And I just feel like, again, I don't think Bobby's trying to do anything. There's no problem or anything. I'm mostly just responding to comments I see on the subreddit and comments I see on the internet. Like a lot of his fans or just people from that world, they're like, Ethan pushed them, he blindsided them and all this. And I feel like I was really sensitive. I didn't push them at all. I really just listened. I feel like I really didn't push them at all. So I don't know. I mean, again, I wasn't trying to drama bait or anything. It wasn't even a big plan of the show. I barely mentioned it. I mean, here, the fact that all opened up like that came as a shock to me too. I mean, I was there for it, obviously, right? I mean, my job as a host is have an interesting, memorable show, but I by no means feel like I bended anyone's leg or had an alternative agenda going into that. I mean, here you can see, this is where it starts.
He didn't make anybody say that anything that they weren't comfortable saying, and I honestly believe that. I guess this is the point where I say I am an H3 fan. I don't, although I'm not somebody who absolves Ethan of everything wrong he might do. But I don't think Ethan was pushing anything inappropriately. I think that something came up and he was being a good interviewer and asking questions about what was brought up. But I don't think that he was pushing inappropriately. Now, I do have notes. I know, right? How fancy. I think that there could have a couple things that could have been done to avoid any sort of uncomfortable situations. I think that as a host, Ethan could have recognized that Bobby was uncomfortable, and I think, I mean, there, you could make an argument that he did, but I think there's not. I don't remember him specifically saying, "Hey, man, we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to." Which, like, I think people who bring up that point, that Ethan could have given an out. That's fair. Second point, I think this is kind of the most important one. Bobby and Kalila could have communicated better before the podcast about, because Kalila clearly says, she says, Shab brought this up even though we said we weren't going to talk about it, so I decided, fuck it, I'm going to talk about it on the H3 podcast. That's something she, like, so obviously she had planned on saying it, talking about it, maybe, and so if Bobby didn't know that they were going to talk about it, I think that's kind of a them thing. Like, if she had planned on saying it, she should have talked to Bobby about it instead of blindsiding him if it affected him so much. Now, that's, like, cutting into uncomfortable territory. I don't like to talk about other people's relationships. I don't know what, I don't know how things go on. That's just my perspective on the issue. If I were in that situation, and Kay, my lovely fiance, if we were being interviewed for something, and then she had brought up a issue that I was uncomfortable talking about, and blindsided me into talking about something, I would be upset about it. But that's just my opinion. And you know what opinions do. And third, I think that when the subject was brought up, Bobby did not have to share information. Like, Kalila had her thing that she wanted to talk about. I think that they both kind of opened a box of information that went further and further and further and further and further. Like, Bobby did not have to share as much information as he did. And I'm not going to say all this stuff. Like, this video for me isn't intended to be about the actual Bobby Lee and Brendan Schwab. It isn't about that. It's I'm reporting on the H3 aspect of it, and so I think that yeah, Bobby Lee didn't have to talk about anything he was uncomfortable with. He, as an adult, could have said, "Hey, man, like, I don't want to talk about this," and I'm sure Ethan would have said, "Okay, man, let's not talk about it." Because, like they said in today's whatever the Wednesday episode is. In today's episode, Ethan was like, yeah, like, I don't want, like, I didn't expect to be talking about that. And so I'm sure that if Bobby had said, hey, this is something that's personal to me and I don't want to talk about it, Ethan would have been like, cool, dude, like, let's move on. So yeah. That's my perspective, that's my opinion. And if you enjoyed listening to me blabber on about H3 for like 15 minutes, then great. You should hit the like and subscribe button because I enjoy making videos, and even though I see like the subscribers come up like one at a time, it really makes me feel good when I see a new subscriber. So if you subscribe, that would make me happy personally. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next video.